Hi there, Laura Wilson from Gold Star Work here. Today I'm going to show you how to make a basic graduated sky. Now you may think that sounds really easy and really basic, and if you've been painting for a while then you will know how to do this and you can skip over this video. But if you're just new to acrylics, or you're not sure how to do a sky or where the light should be coming from, where it should be darker or lighter, then this might be useful. So getting a nice smooth blend with acrylic paint can be tricky because it dries quite fast, and so you have to work quite fast. You can't just take your time and blend over and over. So I'm going to show you how I do it, and hopefully that'll help you with some tricks on how to do this. So let's get going. So first off, I'm going to show you how I do a stay wet palette, because one of the main things that a lot of people struggle with acrylic paints is their paint drying out too much. Now you can buy stay wet palettes which have sheets of paper that you pull off, and it's a blotting paper type substance, but it can get pretty expensive, and this is a homemade one that won't cost you very much at all. So all you need is a container. You can see this one actually gets used because it's got paint all over it, which has a lid on it. So you need an airtight lid. So just something that you buy that you'd put your cookies in or something, but big enough for whatever palette you want. I like a big palette, so I use a big one. And then you just get an old piece of towel and you cut it to the size of the bottom of your palette. And you place that, make that all wet, just run it on the tap, squeeze the excess water out, and you place that in the bottom, and then you get some baking paper. This is just a roll of baking paper that you would use in the kitchen, and you just cut a piece that will fit the bottom of your container. And then you can put your paints right on top of there. And when you've finished for the day, or you've finished your painting session for that time, you just put the lid on, and the next day when you come back, the paint should be fine to use again. So you can keep doing that. Sometimes the top of the lid will sweat if it's in the sun and it gets too hot, and then your paints might get a bit runny, so you do have to watch out for that. But it just means you can carry on with the same colour mixes, so you don't have to keep trying to match your colour mixes because you've still got them there, and you're not wasting paint because you can go back and use them again and again. So that's what I do, and that's what I'll be doing in this painting demonstration. I'm going to be using French Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue and Titanium White. You can get tubs of paint, or you can get tubes of paint, whatever suits you best. I get mostly tubes, but the colours that I use a lot of, like white, I'll get in tubs. So I'm using Atelier Interactive Artist Acrylic, but you can use whatever acrylic paint you like. It doesn't have to be the same as mine. I'm just showing you what I actually use. So to do these sky gradients, we're going to need those three colours. And you're going to need a flat brush. This is a number 18. And a palette knife for mixing. And some paper towels. And possibly a little spray bottle with just some water in it. So I'm going to use my palette knife to mix my colours. And that way I can just wipe my palette knife off in between mixing, and I don't have to worry about washing my brush out. So that's why I use the palette knife. So I'm going to get some of my white first and some of my phthalo blue, and I'm just going to use a very small amount of the phthalo blue to start off with, because it's a strong colour and it's very easy to overwhelm the white. So I'm just going to pre-mix my colour first. I'm going to put some more white in there because even that little bit that I put in there is actually too much for the bottom of my painting. Now once I get a fairly pale blue mix, I'm going to take some of that mix and bring it over here and mix some of my ultramarine blue into that mix. And you'll see how that warms up the blue. And again, I'll take some of that and add a little bit more. So I'm making a colour stream really. So I'm going a little bit deeper and a little bit warmer as the colour comes up. I might need a little bit more than what I've got there for the top of my painting. And I'm going to make a little bit very, very pale blue with the phthalo blue and the white there. And so that's all we need for the sky at the moment. And by using the paper towel, I can just wipe my knife off and I don't have to worry about fiddling around washing my brush or anything. So that's all my paints. If I felt my paints were a bit dry, I can just give them a quick spritz with some water to keep them nice and damp. And I'm going to wet my brush and then just dry it on the paper towel. So I'm not drying it completely, I've just dabbed it with the paper towel, so there's still some moisture in the brush. So I'm just using a piece of canvas pad here, and I'm going to show you some little demonstrations on how to do the gradient sky. So the first one I'm going to show you is just the basic gradient of going from dark to light. Now, if you've been painting for a while, you'll already know how to do this and you can skip over it. But if you're a bit unsure or you can't get your gradients quite right, or you're not sure how to do a gradient for a sky, then carry on watching this and I'll show you what I do. So I tend to work from dark to light, going down. So we'll get the mixture that we made with the ultramarine blue mixed with the phthalo blue and the white. And you're just going to do the top of your sky there. And then I'm not washing my brush, I'm just wiping any excess paint off. And then I'm going into the next colour that we made that had a bit more of the white and the phthalo blue in it, but still got some ultramarine. And work my way down the canvas. And you want to do long strokes so you don't get any choppy bits. And then again, I'm just going to wipe my brush on a paper towel and get that first mixture that we made. And that was just the phthalo blue and the white. A bit too much on my brush there, so I just wipe some off. Then wipe that off again. And then go into the lightest mixture that we made right at the end. And I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. And so you want a smooth transition. And now I'm actually washing my brush out. So as you can see, you've got it warmer and darker at the top, and it goes down to very light at the bottom. And that's the kind of gradient you want in the sky. Now when I do a sky with a gradient like this, I always do 2 coats on my canvas because I just find it gives it a nice smoother looking finish. So we'll dry that off and we'll do it again, see how it looks. So I think you can see that with the one coat it looks a little bit patchy. You can see some of the canvas showing through, and that's why I like to do another coat just to make it all nice and smooth. So we're going to do another coat on there and you'll see what I mean. So we can do exactly the same thing. So I've given my brush a good wash out and I'm just drying it off with paper towel so it doesn't make my paint too runny. I'm going into the same mixtures. I'm going to do the top first with the ultramarine blue mix. I had to make up a bit more because I didn't have enough, and this mix is a little bit darker than the one we were just using, which is why it looks different. But that's okay because we can blend it in with the next one. So this one's exactly the same paint as the last time. And you can see how I'm doing a little crisscross and then smoothing it out. You can smooth that transition line out so it makes a nice smooth colour gradient. Going down to the next lightest colour, and same thing, instead of just going straight across and you get a line, you do a little crisscross into the wet paint. So you want to work reasonably quickly because you don't want the paint to dry while you're doing this. Then come back in with your lightest colour with just a hint of blue in it. And again, you don't want a line there, so do a little crisscross and then smooth it out with long brush strokes. So you can see that I've got a much smoother gradient going on here, going from the warm darker blue at the top and going down into a cooler, lighter blue down the bottom. So that's your simple gradient. Now the other gradient I'm going to show you is the gradient where I'm talking about the radial gradient, where you have the direction of where the sun is. So the sun doesn't need to be in the picture. The sun could be way out here, or it could be out this side. The sun could be over here for this painting here, and you would still get a gradient coming this way as well as down this way. So we've just done going downwards at the moment. In this one I'll show you how you make it look like the light is coming from this direction. So this side will be lighter than this side. So I've just taken the colour that we used at the top there and I've added a little bit more white into it. And I'm going to put that along the top here. And then I'm going to get the colour that we used here, the darker one, and I'm not washing my brush out, and I'm going to bring the dark in from the other side, and because I haven't washed the brush out, as I paint it's going to lighten up anyway. So then you get that gradual fade from dark to light. And you can always add a little bit more dark in. What you don't want to do is put a lot of dark over on your brush and have it go all the way over, because then you will lose your gradient. So I've just wiped my brush off and then I'm just smoothing it out. So I'm wiping my brush off and now we're going to use this colour again on this side. And then put some white on your brush without washing your brush. And then you're going to mix the two in together. And And to get a bit more of the colour from this side, bring it through. Then go to the colour that you used next, the next lightest colour. As you can see, that's pretty much the same as the colour there, so you could have just used this colour for over there if you wanted to. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take this right down to the bottom here, and then I'm going to get my lightest colour and put that on the bottom and then work it up. Now again, I'm going to dry that and do it again so that you can see more clearly how the gradient works. So we're going to do the gradient again because, as you can see, first coat goes a little bit patchy, some of that colour shows through, and I want to completely cover all my canvas. So this time I'm just going to start with the darkest colour and then get some of the light colour that we just added a bit of white in. So it's this same colour with a little bit of white in. If you put it on and you think, oh, that's not light enough, just add a bit more white to your brush. Now because I have put some, because I've dried this off and my paper's not quite cool from using the hairdryer, I am going to spritz it with a bit of water because the paint's drying as soon as I put my brush on there because it's still a little bit warm, and that just helps me smooth out those brush strokes. So then we'll get our next colour, and again you want to smooth out that transition line. And because I haven't washed my brush, some of the colour from there is coming down into here to make it less stripy and more of a nice natural flow. I'm going to get some of my lighter colour here that we'll be using down in this plane here. So instead of adding white to that colour, I just used the colour that I was using down there because that's the same thing. We didn't put any other colours in there. That was just the white and the phthalo blue. It just had more white into it. I'm going to need to spritz this again because it's quite warm still and my paint's not spreading like I want it to. So that little bit of water just helps to spread the paint. And if you want to take your time doing it by using the water, it will extend the amount of time you've got for mixing it on here. So I grabbed a little bit of my lightest colour to go on the bottom, and I'm going to mix some of that into that side there. Now down the bottom here, you won't see as much of a difference in the colour. If the sun is up here, you're not going to see such a great difference between this side and this side. So there you can see you've got your gradient sky and your gradient sky that's lighter on this side than on this side. So you can see that the sun is somewhere over here, and that gives you your aerial perspective for your skies.